So that was the setup that I gave them. And then we did the True Story Circle, as you guys have become accustomed to. And within 15 minutes, there were 10 people crying their eyes out because of the stories that had come up and had been shared, and the moments of reality, and the fact that nobody was helping them understand it or fix it or improve it or shape it. They were just sitting there in the presence of truth and just letting that be for a while. And that was pretty good, which we know because we've been sort of doing that. Well, I use that simply to say the other things that I was telling them about was our experience on the right-hand side of the phenomenon of the True Story Circle, the safety, trust, and truth, the exchange of stories in sacred spaces that leads to opportunities out in the world after you depart the circle, when that story has had a chance just to be what it is, and off it goes, and then you kind of collect yourself and then move on to the next sorts of things that must be done in order to get on with it. But it's always connected to the memory that you created inside that sacred story space, which is an artifact and which happened. No matter what else happens in the future, that happened. And that gives you a sense of continuity and strength going forward. To Chun Lung's comments about the process of innovation, this was the story that I told them from our 3 years of doing this stuff, was that the three-headed monster of transformation, if you will. First is that Fletcher creativity technique, which we're learning, the experiential learning of these little different moments and exercises and whatever, generates this individual energy of insight from a new space that simply taps into the evolutionary's brain desire to find something new. 10 million years of evolution have gone into creating a brain and sensory organs and sense-making system that seeks for novelty, not just to exploit an opportunity, but to find changes in the environment, because most of the time that'll kill you. Like your visual cortex developed to detect the difference between light and dark, because when you're just observing with your primitive eyeball the ecosystem and suddenly a shadow comes in, that's always bad. Well, most of the time it's bad, because that's something that is now coming towards you, and most of the time because it wants to eat you until proven otherwise. So detecting the difference in shading of lights is a survival instinct that's coded into your brain. And as you widen your peripheral vision, now the ability to detect motion on a static backdrop allows you to, tells you, there's something different. So we are geared to see differences. And the smallest difference that we can detect is the earliest opportunity to discover what is changing in the environment in order for us to do something. You decide, or your brain will decide, fight or flight based on all the other millions of variables that are going on. And because we're at the top of the food chain, apparently our brains are designed to do that. And because we can imagine future circumstances and visualize other outcomes and have a limited amount of delayed gratification and opposable thumbs, and a social organization that allows us to communicate to overcome our individual physical weaknesses, because we are a weak animal as a species, but we have the ability to have strong social bonds that reward collaboration more than competition. But with some competition, it's called co-opetition, as a blend of cooperation and competition. So we have this ability to create tribes of practice that can communicate and distribute good ideas that work, and multiply our ability to sense and respond what is working in the universe as we try to design bicycles that will resist the forces of chaos that make them crash, so that they can perform on that curve better, and then add a human for the motive power knowing that they will add some variation to how the bike performs. So how you ride the bike now has something to do with the performance path of the bike. Like you got to learn how to hold your elbows in when you're riding for hours in order to reduce your aerodynamic profile. That makes a difference. Learning how to keep your knees and legs in a certain plane reduces your aerodynamic signature. And that promotes speed in the bike and makes you more stable when you go faster. The thinner your tires, the faster it goes, but the more quickly you lose the balance point when you go off the critical path, which is why bicycles fail eventually. So the left-hand side there, Shenlong, is what happens when you bring together pure Fletcher creativity on the left side on a scale of 1 to 7 of increasing novelty, and then the ability to bring that to market in a way that adds value practically, reliably, professionally, routinely, with lots of opportunity. That's feasibility and acceptability. Feasibility is the cost efficiency of bringing it to market, and acceptability reflects two different value judgments. One of them is, can I trade or perform this system in such a way that it does not violate my sense of ethics and integrity and human values, honor, duty, service, and my acceptability of certain levels of risk, knowing what the risk profile of all the different outcomes look like. Can I perform this system in a way that is making that risk profile acceptable? Either if it's an positive expectancy, then I have to lower the amount of risk per iteration in order to get more iterations so that I never experience catastrophic loss when I get the worst possible controlled outcome. And then there's some optimum level of risk I can trade. Oh yeah, we know the Fortune's formula. There's some optimum mathematical level of risk that I can trade it at to maximize the output of that system within the acceptable limits of risk that is connected to acceptability. So when you blend those two drivers together, the combination of Fletcher creativity and trader's knowledge, which is what we're trying to master, the third head of this three-headed monster of transformational learning is the true storytelling circle that allows us to do the collaborative learning and fire together on all cylinders and contribute to our collective success because of the shared trust, truth, and safety that we have, which leads to opportunity. So no matter what it is that you're trying to learn, if you bring together Fletcher creativity for individual novelty and enthusiasm and energy and insight, plus the true storytelling circle of collaborative, trusted, truthful, safe learning, plus the third head, which is any content that you want to master, what I found is it works with, soccer knowledge, trader's knowledge, soldier knowledge, leadership knowledge, anything that you put into there as the technical component of what it is that you're trying to learn. If you add to that effort of learning the combination of individual Fletcher treatment for creativity plus the true storytelling circle for collaborative learning, you have a recipe for accelerated learning that is impossible to stop. The return on effort, I want you to map the R multiple of accelerated collaborative learning that features Fletcher's nitroglycerin fuel plus true storytelling rapid determination of efficacy and applicability and opportunity, plus just grounded in rock solid trader's knowledge. Every iteration that you go through, every venture that you take each week to learn, documented in your learning journal is an R multiple of learning. Hey, you tried this on and studied this and you got that kind of result. And what was the maximum amount of learning that you could get out of performing the reflection of the plan, prepare, execute, and assess? That's not just for trading, my friends. That is the model for accelerated learning. I'm planning to learn, I prepare to learn, I execute the learning plan of drawing the line on the piece of paper like Ken told me to do to experience the single path of a free bicycle over ground, and then connecting that to the larger insight. And then you're going to reflect on this when you take a look at that little picture again and what it all means, and then you're going to cycle through that on your own individual hamster wheel and generate all kinds of insights that you're going to document in your learning journal, the same way that you document the learned lessons from each trading case study, and you talk about it. Like, you don't say, well, I'm kind of embarrassed to show this. No, you're not. Well, maybe you are, but that's the energy of learning and courage that generates collaborative learning in a safe and trusted culture of learning. So, Chun Long Lee, that is the diagram of the innovation process that you're going to draw for you, that allows you to go from the aha moment of insight to the reflective considerations in column 2, to the experimental test in column 3, to the discovery of the results and reflection upon it in column 4. That's the 4-part learning journal that we talk about. And it goes onto your master task list for other things to follow up on, and you get to them in some kind of prioritized list that you decide upon. It's never ending. Then and only then are you preparing to learn by quickly pushing to the boundaries of what the lesson contains, in the same way that you launch a bicycle of experimentation and follow its path and then document it and add it to the list of other paths that you've traced. And then you learn something about the bicycle and its pathways through time and space. And then you can learn something from it. And then you realize, oh yeah, that's the bicycle is the metaphor for just another mechanical trading system following the rules. You have to accumulate enough N to be able to say anything sensible about the performance of the system without changing the variable of the human driver on it each and every time. It's always a pathway of 1. And you can't learn anything systematic about an N of 1. You can only describe it and what it felt like to be on it. But you can't do anything systematic with it. You can learn something about the sense maker that's riding the bicycle, that's trying to infer systematic information with a bunch of independent experiments with an N of 1. That tells you a lot about the person trying to conduct experiments that way. More than what the system is, you're learning something about the person that cannot recreate conditions in an experimental control group. So be who you are. But also reflect that one of the things that you can do is use bicycles as leverage for your insights, and let the bicycle do the work in the same way that you let the trading system rules do the work, up until the point where you've got to make some decisions at the risk boundary about how much more risk to lock in or to take, or how many gains to take. That's where you're getting paid to make judgments in a pretty good mechanical system, is when to start moving open risk to your side of the ledger, and what's the window in which you're going to allow that bicycle and rider to continue to wobble. And just remember, you're training a monkey to ride a bicycle. They can be trained to do that, but they're always going to be a monkey on a bicycle, and you got to protect that monkey from falling off the bicycle, and that's you taking care of the vulnerable, naive, trusting monkey who just wants to please you and to do well to get a banana. So as you start thinking about all the members of your team and who's on the team and the roles that they play, take a look at that little flashcard that was added in there and those guys that are on the bottom of the team. The chief of staff, the designer, the architect, the framer, the trader, the fireman, the assistant manager, the sniper, the accountant, the scientist, all of those members of the team all doing their part to make a difference between your performance and that of a random number generator. I take the position that we are not random number generators, but that we can do something with skill that makes a difference in the performance of systems.